Shalom Remnant, and I am Rastavita. Today we're going to talk about the third level of heaven, and not much is known about it, but from personal experience, personal revelation, and directly being taught and revealed by the Ruach HaKodesh, I'm able to share and expand more in connecting the dots in what the third level of heaven is about. The only person that truly had an encounter in the third level that we know of that is actually written about is Enoch himself. For those that haven't read the book of Enoch, I highly recommend that you read it. I've said it a couple times throughout my videos, reason being it is pure understanding. And he describes the volume of the levels of heaven, what he sees of time and space. And as he goes through the 10 levels of heaven and comes face to face with Yeshua, when you read that, a lot of parts of the book of Enoch will fill the gaps in the Bible, but not many people connect it. I was asking the Ruach HaKodesh the reasons why is the book of Enoch labeled as not relevant today, and he revealed to me that is a trick of the enemy to pollute the minds and thoughts through traditions of man, that it is not relevant, whereas Enoch was mentioned in the Bible. As we know, he lived 365 years and was found no more, for Yahweh took him. The enemy has played a great trick in relation to the book of Enoch, saying that it is not relevant, but it actually unlocks a lot of spiritual mysteries and heavenly mysteries if you were to read it. I'm going to put a link in the description, in the comments section, a copy of this book, so in a digital format, so you can read it if you don't have it. You can also download, there's an app that someone has translated the book of Enoch, which I use in a digital version on the go and carrying it with me should the Ruach HaKodesh speak in connecting scripture with this book in particular. Like I said, it is highly recommended. A lot of people do not preach on it because they do not understand it. They are not at a spiritually mature level to digest the steak. And the book of Enoch is a book of steak, should I say. I'm going to jump into it. I'm just taking a moment because the Ruach HaKodesh was giving me all the pieces of the puzzle. So I'm just putting it together right now for you. I suggest that you listen to this video straight to the very end. And remnant, you are about to enter the third level. The only person that's written Paul in, let's just jump straight into it because I'm so excited and I'm overwhelmed with all this information and revelation. So just trying to break it down into simple terms that everybody that watches this video can digest the steak piece by piece. It is not New Age. Enoch is not an evil person. He is mentioned in the Bible. He had a lot of encounters. That's like myself writing a book, for example, of my encounters. How is that evil? It is not evil in any way. It's just the brainwashing of the enemy as Yahweh is trying to wash the human's brain with truth. And it's something that because of the tradition of man has resisted in accepting these things. But all the books that were stolen and hidden by the enemy is now coming to the surface. I read the book of Enoch many, many years ago, and I was so profound and I was able to grasp it immediately. Over the years, the Ruach HaKodesh has pieced it together and broken it down further as how this book intertwines and fills the gaps and answers a lot of questions that believers may have. Just FYI, side note, there's a lot of videos going around on social media about the rapture, and people that know, that are mature with Ruach HaKodesh will understand that this is not a rapture style dreams. Reason being, this is many, not all of them, many of them. I would say 99% of them. And I'll explain why. People that are about to enter the third level have that out-of-body experience. And they confuse this with rapture, whereas the Yeshua is just taking the people to the third level. That's where he dwells according to the book of Enoch. This is where paradise and the Garden of Eden is. And so a lot of people have been getting a lot of encounters of, dreams and visions and things like that. But in their immaturity, they're not able to understand that their spiritual eyes are opening and that Yeshua is taking these people up into the third level. So try not to get overwhelmed by the commotion that's going out there. Just take a step back and go through with discernment, but filtering what I see is that's what it is. They're having encounters that are out-of-body experiences that's mentioned in the Bible that Paul talks about, which I'm about to mention in 2 Corinthians 12 verses 1-6, where Paul talks about a man that has an out-of-body experience that enters third heaven. He wasn't raptured. He lived to tell the tale. He lived to speak in what he saw, what words were inexpressible, and he was able to, minister to other people what the third level was about. And this is possible, and it is happening at this moment as well. So the more that the believers are mature and ready to enter the third level of heaven, especially the remnant, the faithful ones, they will have out-of-body experiences and live to tell the tale. It is not a rapture thing. It's just the soul being raptured in connecting back to the Ruach HaKodesh, back to the Garden of Eden, and it's inexpressible with words because the mind and the heart cannot comprehend it. It's out of body between the physical and spiritual realm. It is where heaven touches earth. It is that born again experience, and it is happening now, and the remnant is going to experience that. So you will see that many people will start to say that they're going to have out-of-body experiences. But the thing is it the first level of heaven? Is it the second level of heaven? Is it the third level of heaven? And this is something that the book of Enoch explains. And when you read it, when you check yourself and reflect yourself, you will understand at each level of growth, of spiritual maturity, in what work is the Ruach HaKodesh doing, that as we come closer to heaven, the cleaner that we must be. And the more profound experiences that we have, that is out of body experiences. I'm going to put all these Bible scriptures in the comments, so do not worry about that. But you can go read 2 Corinthians 12, chapter 12, verses 1-6. This man that has the out-of-body experiences enters the third level. He has the vision of paradise. He doesn't mention the detail of it. Whereas if you connect it to the book of Enoch, it actually talks about it in detail. My son, who is 9 years old, did see a vision of paradise. He has not read the book of Enoch. And it matched exactly word for word, vision for vision, with the 300 angels. It matched detail by detail. So if a 9-year-old child can have an out-of-body experience, then anybody can. It depends how pure we are and how we want to walk with Yahweh. So the remnant, we're about to enter the third level. As I've mentioned many times, we have overcome the first level of heaven, which is correcting the mindset of our forefathers. The second level is the heart. It's changed. It's circumcised. And so we go from flesh to spirit, just like Isaac. And this is where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob this is the fullness of that covenant, the 3 levels, the 3 patriarchs representing each level. Abraham had to have his mind circumcised. That's why people must have thought he would have been absolute crazy to circumcise his son. But he had to deal with the sins of his forefathers in the mindset. He could not be like his forefather Terah, who was a murderer. And it looked like Abraham was about to murder his son Isaac, but he had to deal with the mentality once and for all. First heaven. Second heaven is Isaac. It's the circumcised heart. Remember the book of in the Bible where it talks about Isaac. He loved Esau more than Jacob because Rebekah loved Jacob more than Isaac did. But Isaac was focused on Esau because he was a hunter. But he renounced his birthright. So he had to go through an emotional circumcision in the heart to go from flesh to spirit. And so his heart changed. Third level, Jacob. And Jacob had to wrestle that he was not spiritually wicked or deceptive anymore. Remember, Jacob means deceiver. And so he wrestled with pineal gland, the spiritual eye to our soul. That's why they say the eyes are the windows to the soul. And the Ruach HaKodesh in the pineal gland, which is above, the mind and the heart, is the spiritual crown. Jacob had to prove himself faithful once and for all that he was not a deceiver because he deceived Esau. Remember that. And once he proved himself worthy, he was spiritually circumcised when he came face to face with the face of Yahweh, because that's what pineal means. And so he too went from out of this world, had an out-of-body experience, wrestled with the angel, came face to face, and it just overwhelmed him. He was transformed at that moment, and he became Israel. So it's not just a physical Israel thing, it's a spiritual Israel thing too. And even the Gentiles, when they want to join the ways of Israel, because remember, Yeshua was from Israel. He was not a Gentile. They too must go through the circumcision of the mind, circumcision of the heart, and circumcision of the spirit. And this fulfills the covenant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob was able to enter that third level that was inexpressible, that left him so humbled. He was walking with a limp as well. And so many people that reach this level and the new level of remnant that are coming out of the wilderness, that are about to enter this third level, is going through the same thing. In the book of Enoch, not only does he talk about the light side of what he sees when he goes through the levels of the firmaments, he also talks about the shadow, which is the attacks of the enemy, the darkness that shadows the tree of life. Tree of knowledge shadows the tree of life. As we move out of darkness and we come into more light and we eat the fruit of the light and become part of the vines and the branches, for example, we see, if we were to look back where we had come from, and many of us can say, oh my goodness, how far have we come in 20 years? I have myself have been a believer for 20 years, and I look back and I say, wow, Yahweh, look what you have saved me from. Look what you have delivered me from. And I saw the shadows of what he had pulled me out of into his marvelous and glorious light. Then I am able to see and understand. It's when that separation of darkness and light happens, and the patriarchs had to go through that in order to fulfill them. The more we let go of this world, the more that we can just let go and let the Ruach HaKodesh, really have his way in the spiritual realm. And we're not being in control, we're letting truly him being in control. So go back and read 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 1-6. Like I said, he had an out-of-body experiences and lived to tell the tale. How else would Paul know if the man wasn't alive to speak about it? And this is what the kingdom of heaven is about. We have lived to tell the tale, and with our testimony of how we've been healed, especially healing. The word healing keeps coming to me in the Ruach HaKodesh. What we've been healed from, we are able, when the kingdom of Yahweh is given to us, we are able to help heal others to come out of that darkness into the light, the same way Yeshua did in healing us and bringing us out of our darkness into his marvelous light, into his healing arms. Okay? So I'm going to read the book of Enoch. I'm going to put this in the notes, and he describes what paradise is like. Not only that, but he also describes the darkness. We're the remnant, the people that are about to be saved and enter that third level. You are going to see and realize and understand, and what Enoch describes is the shadow of the third level of heaven. The higher the level we go in light is the more the shadow of the depth of darkness, because we are truly going up that ladder away from the things of the world. And so our light illumines the darkness that when we walk across this earth. I'm going to read book of Enoch, and you're going to see the separation and of people in light that can enter paradise and the people that remain in the darkness, and where it says in the Bible, interconnecting it with the book of Enoch. I know it is super intense, but stay with me to the end of the video and you're going to understand why. Okay, patience is key. It's a fruit of the spirit. Remember, the Ruach HaKodesh. Here we go. Let me get my notes. I've got a lot of notes here because I didn't have enough pages to really bring together what the Ruach HaKodesh. Like, he never ends, and he keeps going, and he adds more, and he adds more, and he adds more, and he keeps overwhelming. But it's good because you grasp the volume. We cannot comprehend the width, the depth, and the length of his love. And so even I every day am just blown away with just a little more revelation, a little bit more revelation. Here we go. These are chapters 8, 9, and 10. Okay, of the assumption of Enoch to the third heaven. And those men took me thence and led me on to the third heaven and placed me there. And I looked downwards and saw the produce of these places, such as has never been known for goodness. And I saw all the sweet flowering trees and beheld their fruits, which were sweet smelling, and all the foods borne by them bubbling with fragrant exhalation. And in the midst of the trees, that of life, in that place whereupon Yeshua rests, when he goes up into paradise, Yeshua dwells in the third level. He brings the people out of the wilderness because he is located in the promised land. That is the third level. When we get there, when heaven touches earth and we can dwell with him in one kingdom because he's inside of us. When he draws us out of the first level, he draws us out of the second level, and he brings us where he dwells in our Heavenly Father's house, spiritually speaking, on this earth, that he dwells in us and we can dwell with him. So we connect as one, spiritually as one, okay? When he goes up into paradise, and this tree is of ineffable goodness and fragrance, and adorned more than every existing thing, and on all sides it is in form gold looking. Gold represents glory. This is the glorious level, okay? And vermilion and fire-like, and covers all, and it has produce from all fruits. Its root is in the garden at the earth's end. So there's that chasm between heaven and earth. There's an invisible spiritual tree of life that connects. The roots are on earth and the fruits are in heaven. So you can see the chasm of the galaxy, that volume, the ladder that Jacob talks about. He could not describe inexpressibly, because it was just so spiritually overwhelming, because he had an outer body experience. Remember this. So The roots are grounded in the earth, and as we go up the tree, we're going up to heaven. So this is the ladder he talks about. And paradise is between corruptibility and incorruptibility. The remnant cannot be corrupted, not in the mind, not in the heart, not in the soul, not in any way, form, or shape. But the people that are weak and the people that dwell on earth in their wickedness and pride are easily corrupted. So the paradise separates corruptibility and incorruptibility, and two springs come out which send forth honey and milk. What does the Bible describe the land of milk and honey? This is paradise. It's sweet, it's good, it's filling, because when we drink milk, it fulfills us, and when we eat honey, it is sweet. So he describes it as honey and milk, and their springs send forth oil and wine. Honey, milk, oil, and wine. Each of these blessings are representation of the 4 rivers that lead to the tree of life. Did you know, I love fun facts. Fun fact, did you know that the heart has 4 valves? To get to the center of the heart, which is the tree of life, flow with me physically and spiritually here, and there are 4 valves that represent the 4 rivers. A happy heart. We get milk, honey, oil, and wine, and that represents the reflection of these things, you know. And they separate into 4 parts and go round with quiet course and go down into the paradise of Eden. The paradise of Eden is deep inside. It is the center of these 4 rivers, the center of the heart, which is the spiritual core of who we are, in connecting to the 3rd level where Yeshua is, that there's no corruption, and as we go up higher, we connect to heaven, because this is where heaven touches earth. Paradise of Eden, between corruptibility and incorruptibility. And thence they go forth along the earth and have a revolution to their circle, even as other elements. And here there is no unfruitful tree, and every place is blessed. And there are 300 angels, very bright, who keep the word of Yahweh. And those men took me from there and they brought me up to the 3rd heaven, and I just confused my notes. Bear with me. There are 300 angels, very bright, who look after paradise. Found where I am. I've got a lot of notes here. Thank you for your patience. Bless you. There are 300 angels. When my son saw the Garden of Eden, as we were walking in, he saw Archangel Uriel with a flaming sword guarding the tree of life. And behind him were 300 glowing angels around the tree of life. Okay? And there are 300 angels, very bright, who look after paradise, and with never ceasing voice and pleasant singing, they worship Yahweh every day and hour. And I said, how very pleasant is this place? And those men said to me, this place, Enoch, has been prepared for the righteous, who suffer every kind of calamity, is prepared for the righteous, who endure all manner of offense from those that exasperate their souls, who avert their eyes from iniquity and make righteous judgments. the remnant have righteous judgment because we have been trained, we have been cleaned, we have been disciplined, and therefore we judge righteously because we see through our Father's eyes, through the Son's heart, and through the spiritual realm, deep in our soul. When we look in the spiritual realm, we see and connect with Ruach HaKodesh, what he sees in the volume in the air, like an eagle. So we see that. And so we judge righteous. And give bread to the hungering, and cover the naked with clothing, and raise up the fallen, and help injured orphans. Now remember, the Bible talks about this too. And who walk without fault. That means they're faultless. Before the face of Yahweh, and serve him alone. They serve him alone. I love that. I love that. And serve him alone. When Yeshua was in the wilderness, the third thing that he said to the enemy when he was getting tested, and tempted by the enemy, but we know that he conquered his test. He said, you shall serve Adonai Elohim only. Not serve anybody else or anything else, because we know a lot of it is corrupted and by the enemy is a distraction. Money this, for example, or things like that. The distractions are from the enemy to throw people off. Even some of the elite in Yahweh's kingdom would be so distracted with the things of the world that they won't make it out of the wilderness because they are not keeping him number one in their lives, in all realms, in the mind, heart, body, soul, and spirit. And so serve him alone. And for them is prepared this place for eternal inheritance. Where is our inheritance? It starts at the third level. When people go through their wilderness, and the remnant can understand what I'm saying, is that a lot of people say, when am I going to get rest? When am I going to get my blessings? When am I going to get my inheritance? Well, you got to go through your training process, cleaning up process to be worthy of receiving such an inheritance of what you are, who you are, what you're called to do, and what we are meant to do for the kingdom. Because one, there can be no mistakes. We have to be mature sons and daughters. And when we graduate, from sons and daughters, we become kings and queens, the priests and the kingship. This is where Yeshua fulfills and brings the finality, the finality of how it's meant to be and what it's going to be, and this is how it's meant to be done. So if you're still going through your wilderness, keep going, because there's multiple factors that Yeshua is cleaning up the process. He's calling you, he's choosing you, but he needs to find you faithful throughout that wilderness process, in serving him alone. Then you are released in his timing in order to enter when we can be trusted, like when Jacob could be trusted with the inheritance of Israel. Then he received his inheritance, became Israel, and everything changed from there. The covenant is fulfilled, and we just keep doing his work on earth by bringing down heaven. But then in his timing, he can just call us back up whenever he wants, when our work is done. So remember, like I said, a lot of factors of the rapture is not correct. It's just the eyes being open to the spiritual realm. These people are just going higher with Yeshua. It's not a rapture thing. There's redemption, there's restoration, there's still rest. All these things happen at the third level. The process is along the way, but the race of rest, we enter at the third level. Then we are able to do Yeshua's work on earth, the kingdom of heaven, with no beasts, with no distractions, and we can solely focus on serving him alone as role models, as leaders, The fivefold ministry can come forth. And this happens every generation. I've said this before. It happens every generation. Everybody, as soon as they get saved, they go straight into the wilderness and start to conquer. The first thing, conquer the mind. Second, conquer the heart. Third, conquer the soul. We can connect to the spiritual. Then we can be trusted, because there's so much power that we have at that third level. We got to use our superpowers for good. Yes, we get our superpowers. Our gifts are activated. What we speak moves. Immediate things happen. As Yahweh spoke things into existence, when we speak, things happen immediately as well, because we can be trusted with that authority and power, and we judge with righteous judgment. The anointings of Elijah and Enoch are a high level that Yeshua brings to himself. Elijah could be trusted in the mindset with that firepower. Enoch could be trusted with the flame power in his heart when seeing things in the spirit. So when we move with full fire in the mind, full flame in the heart, we push forth that hot oil that can incinerate anything in our path, but we must be trusted. Yeshua had so much power. He has so much power. But when he came to earth, he did not step out of line with it. So when we reach the third level, we cannot step out of line either. So that's why all the mess is done in the wilderness, the cleaning up process, before the doors are opened, so we can go ahead and move forward. Let's get back into this. Now, so that describes the third level, the good side, the light side. I'm going to read the dark side, and those that are mature in the spirit can handle this. And this is the little pieces of steak that I encourage all believers, because we cannot stay on milk forever. At some point, we have to pull the dummy out of our mouth, and we need to put on our big pants on, spiritually speaking, and stop crying like babies. There's a period of time, there's a time and place for it. Don't get me wrong. When the wounds are deep, for example, so these things I understand. I've been there myself. But if you're finding yourself in the wilderness going around the same mountain for a long period of time, stop and think why. There's a new level of growth at hand. And this we must take serious. The dark side, so as we enter, and this is the shift that's happening, as the remnant are stepping into paradise, unfortunately, those people that do not repent and choose to stay wicked and evil and prideful and even being cowards are not welcome. This is the third level of darkness that they get put into. So we enter into paradise. They're not going to enter the paradise, and we are going to see them burning in flames. And I'm going to read it, because remember, he is pulling us out of these things into a safe place, which is the top of his mountain, Mount Zion. And this is what's happening as we click into 2025. This is why this message is being released now. So you understand the third level, the way, the truth, and the life. The life is found in the tree of life. It's found in the garden, the paradise, where life is, where life began before sin happened at all. These are what's about to happen to our enemies. Physically and spiritually, in the mind, heart, whatever the enemy tried to throw against us, this is what's going to happen. This is the judgment of the people that are being not welcomed in the third level. They did not go through the process. They tried to jump in through the window. They chose not to put Yahweh first, and the complete opposite, have entertained darkness. Let's get into it. Here, they showed Enoch the terrible place and various tortures. And those two men led me upon to the northern side and showed me there a very terrible place. And there were all manner of tortures in that place, cruel darkness and unillumined gloom. And there is no light there, but murky fire constantly flameth aloft. And there is a fiery river coming forth, and that whole place is everywhere fire. And it's like spiritual hell. That's what it's like. He's describing a spiritual hell. We're in spiritual heaven, and the people that are the wicked people, the reflection we're going to see is like a spiritual hell. We're going to see that. And everywhere there is frost and ice. This is the cold-hearted people, the cold-spirited people that are so evil and wicked that they've become cold in their soul like ice. So the third level of hell is fire and ice. It's so hot. Either people are so cold or so evil in their heat, like hot with evil. And these people are being locked up and thrown into the third level of hell. This is where the weeping and gnashing of teeth is. Okay? There is frost and ice, thirst and shivering. Thirst and shivering. Remember when the rich man died, when he didn't help Lazarus in any way, and he said he just wanted a drop of water? He was thrown into the third level of hell because he was thirsty. While the bonds are very cruel and the angels fearful and merciless, bearing angry weapons, merciless torture. And I said, this is Enoch speaking, woe, woe, how very terrible is this place. And those men, so two angelic beings described, described as men, were the ones that took Enoch through this, to explain to him. And those men said to me, this place, O Enoch, is prepared for those who dishonor Yahweh, who on earth practice sin against nature. Oh, we know about this. Let's get into it. This is real now. On earth practice sin against nature, which is child corruption. Child corruption. After the sodomitic fashion, magic making, enchantments, and devilish witchcrafts, and who boast of their wicked deeds, stealing, lies, calumnies, envy, rancor, fornication, murder, and who accursed steal the souls of men, who seeing the poor take away their goods and themselves wax rich, injuring them for other men's goods, who being able to satisfy the empty, made the hungering to die, being able to clothe, strip the naked, and who knew not their Creator, and bowed down to soulless, lifeless gods, who cannot see nor hear, vain gods, who also built hewn images and bowed down to unclean handiwork. For all these is prepared this place amongst these for eternal inheritance. Did you grasp that? Did you grasp that? Do you see the difference between good and evil? I just spoke about, like, Book of Enoch. He talks about what he sees in the third level of heaven. He says it in detail what it looks like. And even that was too inexpressible for him. But he managed, because he had that gift. He was like a scribe. And so he was able to write profoundly. Because in the Book of Enoch, when he was taken in through the levels, he had the gift of writing. So he was able to capture that. And of course, in the ancient Hebrew, would be slight differences, but we can grasp the fullness of the idea in the English language. And he describes the third level of hell and all those people that is listed. Remember, it's chapters 8, 9, and 10. This is a reflection of heaven and hell. Okay? Very, very powerful stuff. So what we are being saved from is the wicked that they're about to enter into. This is the realm, the darkness realm they're about to enter into. The third level is where the remnant are glorified. And we read that. This is where glory happens, okay? In fullness, when the second death happens, when it talks about the second death, it's talking about spiritual death. So we can truly, second spiritual death, to truly spiritually submit to him alone. This is where it happens in one's self once and for all. So we can enter that paradise once and for all. This is the true born again experience, where the soul connects to the spiritual eternity once and for all. The mind is renewed, the heart is healed, and now we're entering spiritual glory. This is where the Jacobs turn into Israel. Remember, Jacob turned into Israel at the third level when he was spiritually circumcised, where us, the remnant, have wrestled and come face to face with Yahweh. And a lot of us are going to have inexpressible words, but we will live to tell the tale. It is not a rapture thing. It's just our soul being redeemed and raptured back into the spiritual realm, into paradise. That's all it is. That's all it is. Okay? The rapture, the Ruach HaKodesh hasn't told me anything about that, but in relation to this is what he has told me, and I will stick with that. What he tells me stays. Okay? It's not about us anymore. We have truly died to ourselves and live and serve only for the kingdom of Yahweh. This is the level of faithfulness in all areas where the veil is lifted and we see eternity and heaven on earth. We get to see eternity and live to tell the tale of eternity. However, for the people that do not repent and the weeping and gnashing and the sight of the darkness, that practice all those unrighteous things that I read in the book of Enoch, they will have weeping and gnashing of teeth. And it will come upon the wicked and useless servants. And who else does it describe? If we go to Revelations 21:8, it talks about, for example, the cowards and the murderers. That matches the unrighteous factors that Enoch talks about that cannot enter the kingdom of heaven unless they repent. But in Revelations 21:8, it says, they shall have their part in the lake of fire. Enoch described the third level of hell as being a lake of fire. That is very scary. The reconciliation of what was thrown out of paradise will now be restored. This is the spiritual restoration of our original position. Like I said, the original creation of Adam, the original creation of Eve, how she was meant to be. This is what's happening. This is why it's going to be like paradise on earth and heaven on earth. The way that Adam and Eve should live and should have been, the original point of creation. So this is why it's the year of Jubilees. Go to the other videos and it's just confirmation upon confirmation. So it's going back to the beginning. This is going back on the clock face, literally speaking. So there's this like back to the future that's happening. As we're getting older, we're spiritually going back to the beginning as we correct ourselves, which will be like a slingshot effect when Adonai commands it, when he finds that faithfulness. So it's like as we're going forwards, time is reversing, but in a slingshot moment, it's accelerating at the same time to catch up into the physical and spiritual realm. It's a slingshot effect between heaven and earth, spiritual and physical. We get this cross shape, that's happening. So it's just opening, and letting the Ruach HaKodesh really speak and expand the volume and the depth and the width and the length of his love. It's eternal. It really is. So there's a renewal that's coming, okay? And this is going to happen in this paradise. This is the spiritual born again experience, the born again experience in paradise. Before sin, It is here at the third level that restoration happens with our bridegroom, Yeshua, and then kingdom marriages. So we must get right with Yahweh, Yeshua, and the Ruach HaKodesh first, alone, Him only. And then He will, at the third level, arrange kingdom marriages. Whoever is faithful, whoever has made it into the third level, the kingdom marriages, this is where He will arrange it, because it's the same level, with the same purpose, with the same Ruach HaKodesh, with the same oil, doing the same thing and serving the same Yahweh and having that same spirit. The two becoming one. Amazing, isn't it? To enter paradise, all fear and anger must be removed once and for all. The enemy likes to attack in the two main ways towards humans: fear and anger. Fear and anger. And I'll explain why. It must be removed once and for all because it isn't welcome in paradise. Yahweh does not want cowards. There's no cowards in this paradise. The remnant, we're ruthless like lions. There can't be anger because the hot anger is from the enemy. But the righteous anger is from Yahweh. Even Yeshua flipped tables in His righteous anger, saying, "You made my Father's house a robber's den." We will know the difference between righteous and unrighteous. Amazing. I'll explain. There's a story in the Bible. Jacob had to face his fear with Esau. He had to deal with that fear once and for all. So he confronted his fear with Adonai. So not only did he have to confront his fear against his brother, he had to confront his fear against Yahweh. Yahweh had to test him with that fear. But also Esau was tested on his anger after being betrayed. Remember, Esau threatened to kill Jacob as well. So he was hot in anger in his flesh. He was not in the spiritual realm. He had already resigned. He had already resigned his birthright. So he switched to flesh rather than spirit. Jacob had to correct the spirit and that spiritual, to make him righteous to be circumcised. Jacob had to confront his fear. Esau had to confront his anger. Okay? The spiritual sin of Adam and Eve is removed forever. In paradise, in the third level, the spiritual sin of Adam and Eve is removed forever. The man and the woman cannot have fear or anger. Period. When Adam and Eve were kicked out of the garden, they were fearful and angry. They were blaming each other. They were scared. What were they going to do outside the garden? How were they going to go about things? And the enemy was able to, over time, to use tactics against one another. And it still happens today. Any relationship and marriage that does not have the Ruach HaKodesh, that spiritual door is always open. But in the kingdom marriages of Yahweh at the third level, this will not exist because these issues would be dealt outside of the garden before entering into the garden righteous, and then enter kingdom marriages in righteousness. So, of course, Adam and Eve were angry and fearful of what had happened for being kicked out. And therefore, as new creations, we will enter paradise sinless. The spiritual sin, finally, of Adam and Eve will be removed so we can go back and dwell in that paradise. The sin of the soul, the wounds that we inflicted upon ourselves because of corruption, flesh, fear, and anger is dealt with once and for all with our first sin to Adonai. Remember, we first sinned to Adonai. Adam and Eve firstly sinned to Yahweh. They sinned first to Him. The sin that we did to between us and him alone is going to be dealt with once and for all. This is going to be removed. The new Adam is Yeshua, and the pure spiritual element is the woman. So remember, Eve was created to be a helper. The man was to assist in love, and the woman is to help in love. And the Ruach HaKodesh is a helper. And so the woman spiritually must be a high form, the purest form of the Ruach HaKodesh, because it can't be half-half. It's not going to work. It must be a pure form of the Ruach HaKodesh in order. It's like when Yeshua got baptized and the dove came upon him. Well, when the men get right with Yeshua, the woman is like a dove. It's the same factor. The Ruach HaKodesh helped Yeshua through his ministry and through his walk. And so the women, the pure form of the Ruach HaKodesh as a helper is, will help the men. Okay? So remember when Adam and Eve got kicked out of the garden, they covered their sin with fig leaves. They covered themselves with fig leaves. But did you know that the fig leaves are actually toxic? So if you think about it, when they covered themselves, their private parts with fig leaves, the fig leaves are actually very toxic. Well, isn't sin toxic? So Adam and Eve covered themselves from their toxicity. Well, as I mentioned in the video for next year, that toxicity is going to come out once and for all, whether it be fear or anger, so Adam and Eve can be truly vulnerable and naked between us and our Creator first and foremost. And, that spiritual cleansing, there's no toxicity, there's no poison, there's no covering or hiding, and all that shame will be, gone, and healing, true healing in our soul from the first spiritual sin of Adam and Eve is going to be removed once and for all. It must be removed and healed before entering back into the Garden of Eden, which is paradise. As we are saved and delivered from the last spiritual sin of Adam and Eve, the curse will reverse back onto the wicked. I'm going to read that again. As we are saved and delivered from the last spiritual sin of Adam and Eve, the curse of Adam and Eve will reverse back onto the wicked, but we will help heal and deliver them out of their darkness like Yeshua did. Like what he did for us, we're going to be doing that for other people. We're going to understand because our brightness is going to illumine their darkness and we're able to speak into their lives. We know exactly what to pray. We know exactly what to say. And so we have that same level of authority as Yeshua does. We must be positioned ourselves first before rescuing others. The blind cannot lead the blind. We need to have the veil removed first before we can take the log out of people's eyes. And it starts with his people, okay? So before we can rescue other people, we ourselves must be rescued and healed ourselves. We see 100% accuracy in truth in what is needed to be saved, and it's done without corruption. It is done without corruption. The third level, there is no corruption whatsoever, as we just read in the book of Enoch. So the separation of light and darkness is happening. The Ruach HaKodesh was telling me today as well that the gate is now closed. And as we enter the new year, the new doors are opening that leads to life. And that is our way back into paradise, back into, the Garden of Eden that's promised us. Unfortunately, the gate is now closed. The wicked have chosen not to repent and continue in their ways. There's going to be weeping and gnashing of teeth, and it's going to be hell for them. That's the truth. Very powerful indeed. Get right with Yeshua. Those people, the remnant that are sensing true joy, you made it. You passed. And as we just rest, He's about to open that door for us. Shalom.